Welcome to episode 56 of From the Shed End podcast with myself, TDOT, as always. Theo, how you doing?
I think how a lot of Chelsea fans are feeling right now. The 10th of March 2022 was a bit of a dark day for all of us. It was meant to be a happy day given it was our 117th birthday, but it was probably what was a very tragic day for a lot of Chelsea fans. And like I was telling you right before this call, the news didn't feel real. But football aside, I'm happy. Beautiful day in London yesterday, regardless of all the Chelsea news. So
Not dark, grey clouds.
trying to stay positive, although it's quite grey and overcast today. But
Yeah.
Chelsea aside, how are you doing?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. I think, it's hard to I don't think people who aren't Chelsea fans don't understand sort of the magnitude of the problems or the issues. So, aside from football, great, of course, as always, but I'm great, but not great as well at the same time. But let's get straight into it because obviously, elephant in the room, all of that stuff. Obviously, if you've been under a rock the last couple of days, so I think yesterday the announcement came out that the government had sanctioned Chelsea from the sale or selling of the club. Also included in those sanctions was the club can't make any real profit. So match day tickets, any merchandise, the selling or buying of any player. So basically another transfer ban. Those were the kind of key sort of sanctions, but I'm sure there's many others that probably sit underneath that as well that we just, not that we're not bothered about. We're just, we're here for the big ones. So, it was a crazy. I mean, I always knew this day would potentially come, but not really to this, this magnitude, this scale. I always thought it was going to be, Roman, you've got to sell the club, which is what I think he was trying to do last week. But to see what's happening now and to try and the government's basically got its hands around the throat of the club, literally squeezing it to death. It's a sad day, and I see people online, having banter and stuff like that, which I'll get into after. But just seeing people have banter about something which is serious, we're talking about people who work at the club, and I'm not talking players. I'm talking, regular, Jane and Daves who probably work in the club shop or, as match day, facilities, catering, etc. This is their job we're talking about. Kit man, the groundsman. No one was joking last year when everyone was on furlough. So I don't. For me, it's the same. It's the same thing. So I don't know. I'm gonna be quiet for a minute before I go on a massive rant. But what's your thoughts, Theo? What's your thoughts on what's happened over the last sort of 24 hours?
I'm still processing it all. Like you said, we kind of expected something to happen. It felt like it was at that boiling point, but never to the magnitude and scale that the reports have indicated yesterday. And it's just things that feel a bit surreal, like the club shop all of a sudden closing at 11 a.m. Everybody got kicked out. Frankie's bar as well. You couldn't call up to make a booking. Things like that just don't feel real. And those are not people that will have any ties whatsoever to Putin or Russia. So why should they be penalized, sanctioned? I'm a membership holder at Stamford Bridge. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to go to a game again this season, beyond, I think, the Brentford one, which is the last home ticket I secured. I'm going to Lille next week. I'm traveling to France. The squad's now only given £20,000, I think, to travel. I don't know if that's enough for them to charter the plane, get all the kits, the members of staff, all of that. It's just a lot of uncertainty around the club. A lot of small details that are sad, very, very sad. Like you said, the people that will lose their jobs, that have bills to pay, that maybe not be able to do that now. It's a bit of a symbolic one, but I was in the Chelsea megastore. I went to the Chelsea megastore on Wednesday. I was there on Wednesday. I didn't really realize that this could be Wi-Fi the last time here. And I bought a couple of things for some friends. And now looking back at that day, I'm thinking, oh shit,
Cherish the moment.
Cherish the moment. And I took a video of Stamford Bridge, and probably I will still walk past Stamford Bridge. It will still be there, but that one day now feels a bit eerie in a way. It does feel a bit eerie. I think like the main word I can kind of say to just describe the next couple of months is it's uncertain. It's very, very uncertain because there's still talks of we can still sell the club potentially. An owner can still come in and buy the club. And if that is the case, you'd hope whoever he or she is will pump some money into the club, allow the players that still have contracts to be renewed, like Rudiger, to get that sorted, to maybe bring in some players in the summer, because we do need some players to be brought in. But like I said, just a lot of uncertainty, a lot of kind of a sad period. And I think, like you kind of touched on, even if it's your biggest rival club, for me as a Chelsea fan, I'll talk about the Liverpools, the Arsenals, the Tottenhams. I would not wish this on any of those clubs, because what we're talking about here with Chelsea, it doesn't have any relation to football and the performances on the pitch, but it's related to politics and external events that have affected essentially the future of the club and potentially where we will be for the next many years to come. So I would not wish that on any club, because I like laughing when Tottenham, Arsenal lose, but based on what I see on the pitch, not what I see outside the pitch. You know, we had the Super League last year, we had coronavirus the year before, and now we've got this. It's kind of all these tragic events outside of football that just seem to affect the sport that we love and that I've grown up to love and I will still forever love, which is also Chelsea. So, no, like I said, just the one word I will say is uncertain.
Yeah, you touched on some really good points, because I think, just in terms of the sort of assets being frozen and things like that. So yeah, the club can still sell 100%. The problem being now is obviously legally, technically, as it is today, Roman Abramovich doesn't own the club, doesn't own his 15-bedroom mansion that I read about in, I think it's Kensington or somewhere. So he doesn't own those things. So the club can still sell. The problem being is it's all now in the government's hands, and this is the same government that no one had any trust in, any backing in during, COVID. Those times when the rules were coming out and the rules weren't clear. This is the same government that everyone had a good moan about for 12 months is now, expecting to sell £1 billion company, organization, club. This is who the hands that they have the club in their hands now. So, I think whoever comes in, again, Roman was looking for, I think, 3 billion or close to 3 billion for the sale of the club. The government could sell it for £1 billion, and they're talking about giving it to I think it's some sort of charities or something affiliated with Ukraine and their charities over there. Do we honestly believe the government, the corrupt government, the government that is so corrupt is going to give £1 billion or even £50 to this, to any charity? They don't. That it won't happen. So I know, just looking, I'm sort of got Sky Sports on in the background, so I know that there's conversations happening right now to try and get some of those sanctions relaxed and get match day, because I think the revenue for match days is 600,000. So you're talking, let's slash that to 300, to say 250,000 a game. The travel alone for an away day can creep up to £50,000. That's including cost of getting there, hotels, food, all the staff, everything. Just things that even the average person probably wouldn't even think about in terms of getting a team to go and play abroad. Cost money. And I don't think people, the ripple effect this will have in the Premier League. Everyone wants to joke, and I get it. It's Chelsea, so everyone wants to have a good joke about it. But the ripple effect this will have on the Premier League, people aren't thinking. They're not thinking logically. They're just, it's all memes. We live in a meme world and a GIF world, and everything's funny. But this will have a massive ripple effect on the Premier League, on other big clubs. Now this has happened once. There will be there will be at some point investigations into Manchester City, into Newcastle. These things will happen eventually, and United fans live. I'm going to cut this out because I know what I'm going to say, and I know it's probably going to be very controversial. We don't joke about these things because they're not funny, and this is one of those. This is one of those things. We don't joke about Christian Eriksen having a heart attack. They're not funny. Not everything about football is to be joked about. And I'm seeing Nike, 3 mobile company, Hyundai, all these companies who have blood on their hands, trying to throw stones and then hide their hands. It's the I can't even say the word. I'm not angry, but the hypocrisy of everything that is happening in football right now has to change, because if it doesn't, this will not just be Chelsea. This will happen to you. This will happen to Manchester. It will happen to all the big clubs eventually, because all the big clubs rub hands with dirty people. So are we just going to be the scapegoat, or is it going to happen to every club?
No, you made some really, really valid points. And just to kind of conclude on that, all we have to see is we've got a World Cup being played in Qatar in December. FIFA have organised that, and we saw the effect and the consequences on the stadiums they were building, on the people and the constructor and the workers. But everybody's happy to turn the blind eye to that. But we don't joke about that. We don't joke about the people who died building those stadiums, just like all the other events you spoke about. And I don't think this is a laughable matter either. It's not. When you look at people losing their jobs, probably won't have any money to feed their kids, their families. It's sad. It's bloody tragic. But obviously, some people, like you said, we live in a world where people just enjoy sharing content, creating these memes, these jokes. And those sponsors, for me, it's cowardly that they've backed out. 3 have not publicly backed out, but they've claimed to suspend their partnership. That's cowardly. Exactly. Like, you don't back out during this period, and then when everything's blue skies and sunshine, come back, being like, okay, we're back now that you've got a new owner, you're able to play games, you're able to have a full stadium. It doesn't work like that. And I mean, small things as well. Like, I don't even know if on Sunday I'm going to be able to buy a match day program when I go to the Chelsea Newcastle game.
I don't think there'll be. I mean, it's classed as merchandise, so I don't think there'll be. It depends who own the program. I'm assuming if it's Chelsea, then
it's all these little questions that are, like I said, it's uncertain. Yeah. I don't even know if you're able to buy a kit online, not just the Mega Store, but if it's online, if you can go in the Nike store and buy it, or if it's small things like that. That just seems almost too crazy to be real.
Yeah, I think no, I've just gone on to the website, and it's you can't buy on the Megastore online either. So this is what, you know. Before, I should have put a disclaimer at the start of this. So I'm not saying that I don't agree with the sale of the club, or, you know, I think I even said it on the last episode. You know, we know that Roman Abramovich has not been the most squeaky clean, law abiding person. We probably know this. It's you know, Google is there, so anyone can do that and find out information. But it's now it's not even about Ukraine or Russia. It's not about anything that's happening there. If you look at the impact this is going to have, not just on Chelsea, on English football, because if Nike pull out, that's a massive, because it's not just Chelsea so the Premier League must have money off Chelsea. So the money that Chelsea are getting, the Premier League is sat at that table and they're eating the same amount of money that Chelsea are getting. Now, if we're not getting 900 million off Nike, or, you know, we're getting X amount of free and they're now taking that away, and Hyundai the same, that has a knock-on effect to the Premier League. The Premier League's now going to say, okay, well, we haven't got Chelsea giving us that money, so United, Liverpool and Tottenham, your season ticket price is going to have to go up, because we need a bit. People they don't think. Everyone thinks in this sort of bubbly, jokey, you know, comedy world, but it's a serious thing. It's exactly the same thing as a Super League. That was a very serious matter. Everyone took that serious. You should take this serious as well, because, you know, United don't like their owners, so I'm confused why they're giggling. And the same with Tottenham, the same with Arsenal. Liverpool aren't actually that better off, because they don't spend real money. They don't have money to really spend, or if they do, they don't spend it. And as I said before, the bit that I'm going to edit out that I'm not going to say again, but we don't joke about it. It's a serious thing. So this is exactly the same thing. One of the things I did want to ask you before I get really angry, I'm going to calm down, was around the Champions League, because obviously that's something that we haven't really spoken about. Now, obviously, if the club, because one of the things I did read is that the club has to sort out a new buyer by the end of May. Now, there's some sort of license in place that means that the sale has to go through by that point. And if it doesn't, then the ramifications of that are probably greater than even I can even think of. So what I mean, worst case scenario, let's look at it from that point of view first of all. Obviously, worst case is, you know, the club can't get the sale done. You know, administrators are called in. Administrators get called in. There's a massive points deduction. We could be kicked out of the Champions League for this as well. So there's another hefty fine. I read earlier the club's got 17 days in terms of, I think 28 million is what is in the reserve bank at the moment. I think the wages comes up to about 30 million. So, you know, worst case scenario, 100 years of history could just be wiped out just like that. That's just the severity of the matter that we're dealing with. But just in terms of the Champions League, so I'll get back to my point. Can you see that happening? The worst case that we get kicked out of the Champions League, and we're sort of just by default not in it anymore.
Definitely. I think that's definitely something that I can see as an option for UEFA or whoever's in charge to punish us. You said it on the WhatsApp yesterday in our conversation. They're almost trying to burn our club to the ground, and like kicking us out of the Champions League. I feel like that would be the cherry on the cake for them. Just kick Chelsea out, and you don't know whether it would be at the end of the season, whether it would be after a 9-point deduction that we don't qualify for the Champions League, whether it would be after the game against Lille. You just don't really know the timing of it, but I definitely feel like it's something, knowing UEFA, knowing how the football world works nowadays, it will happen. But then again, just I don't want to make those comparisons, but when financial fair play with Man City, PSG, all that, they always got it their way. They got it. I think it was summer 2020 when Man City openly broke the financial fair play rules. They won't give it any point deductions, kicked out of Europe. No, but because we're Chelsea, like Mourinho said, there's always been a campaign against us, and they're trying to burn us to the ground. So I think if things continue like the way they're going, we'll be kicked out. We will.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Just thinking as well about, obviously, when I said before, we can't buy, we can't loan. I mean, I'm looking at this from a positive, negative perspective. Obviously, the negative being that we can't bring any players in, but we do have the luxury of a good academy. We've got obviously plenty of players out on loan that we've spoken about, the Conor Gallagher's, those sort of players that we've got, Billy Gilmore as well. There are players there out on loan that we have to our disposal, I suppose. Come worst case scenario, we can't buy anyone, even if the sanctions are lifted and there's a new buyer takes over. There could still be a period where the club isn't still allowed to make any transfers or anything, so we have to utilize the players that we've got at the club. You're looking at Romelu Lukaku now. That looks like actually a kind of half decent bit of business, because if we've got him there, we don't know how long this is going to go on for. Like I said, this could be another 12 months. We can't buy anyone. We've got someone there that at least there's a player there. At least we're not just relying on, Havertz to play a whole season, Timo Werner a whole season. So yeah, and obviously my point that I'm getting to is Cesar Azpilicueta, who is still allowed to talk to other clubs, but I suppose we still have that clause in his current contract that allows us to trigger a 1-year extension. I wasn't sure if he was aware of this, but he's got a 1-year extension that we can trigger.
Are we allowed to trigger it though, given the situation of our contracts?
Well, I'd suppose so.
Is that class as a contract renewal, or is it
not buying or selling? So,
but I read that we're not allowed to renew any player contracts.
Well, I don't know.
That's why Rudiger will be off, Christensen will be off, and Azpilicueta will be off, and we can't do anything about that.
Well, we'll have to see, but I think if we can retain Azpilicueta, I'll be happy.
If there's a loophole, then a bit like how we got Kovacic, we signed Kovacic when we were given a transfer ban because he was on loan of us. If there's some kind of loophole in those contracts with those players, then that would be a blessing in disguise for sure.
Yeah. Well, I know. Obviously, Christensen looks like he got his deal done just in time. But I think if in terms of Azpilicueta, if we can keep him, that would be definitely a bonus. But just in terms, before we kind of move on from this, because we don't want this episode to be all doom and gloom. But just thinking, obviously I'm going to say it again. I know there's loads of people, losing their lives in Ukraine and everywhere, but this is bigger than just Chelsea now. This isn't just about Chelsea Football Club. This is about the actual Premier League, other English clubs as well. If I was another English club or a fan of another club, an example, when Bolton nearly folded, there was it was a sad thing to hear, and I think it was Macclesfield. There was another sort of lower league team that nearly folded or did fold, and these guys that are at the club that work as staff, groundsmen, and just the average Joe. These are the ones that are being impacted more than anything, not the £300 striker or the £200,000 midfielder. They're okay. They've got money. They've got a nice cushy bit of money to sit on. But it's the ones that are down at the very bottom that are impacted more than anything. So for me personally, the best scenario for me would be we can actually get fans back into the ground, non-season ticket holders, members, etc., we can get some revenue, because the club won't sustain till May. It just won't last. It's impossible to last till May. It's impossible. It's not practical to last that long. All these buyers are still interested, but it's down to the government now, and we know what the government's like. We know what they will do eventually. So yeah, it's hard to even talk about it. It's hard to talk about it without getting, because I'm a passionate person. So if I talk about it, I will go on a tangent and just carry on and not stop. But let's move on. Let's move on before I get myself in trouble. I seem to be trying to do that every week on here. But let's talk about football. Let's actually talk about football. Norwich, good result for us. Let's talk about the goals, the team, the players. Let's give them some light, some limelight. Good performance. What do you think, Theo?
Yeah, we had a game after all yesterday. We forget about it. It's a bit like that Brighton game last season, post Super League protest. They had that same feeling about it. But it was a good performance. 2 goals early on in the opening 20 minutes. A lot better in the first half. We could have easily had 3 or 4. I felt almost a bit some complacent kind of finishing in the penalty box. Havertz could have scored. But you're happy when you go 2-0 at half time. I thought Norwich were probably the better team in the second half, if I'm honest. They had the most chances. A bit of a silly penalty to give away. Kind of shows Chelsea's inexperience at times. You definitely won't be seeing a Rudiger or Thiago Silva stick his arm out like that, I feel. But like we said, he's young. We need to cut him some slack. And he does grow into the games, and he does do brilliant things like the goal he scored as well, and some big blocks and interceptions. But no, I think we both predicted 3-0, so we weren't too far off. And sometimes you get unlucky with these type of penalty decisions. But no, I'm pleased with the performance. If there is a bit of hope for the Chelsea Football Club and we get a new owner, these are the type of games that you want to be winning to make sure we get top 4. And we need to focus on the football, like you said, which is what we watch Chelsea for, why we love Chelsea, because we love the sport, we love the club, we love the players, we love the manager. So yeah, big 3 points, and we march on for top 4.
Yeah, I was impressed. I was impressed with, again, we talk about Havertz and how he plays, but what I noticed yesterday, especially more so in the first half, it was all the players around him as well. That just that link-up play was there. For Kante was superb. I think I've sort of bashed him slightly on some of the YouTube videos I've done over the last couple of weeks, but I felt like that was the Kante that we need. The one that drives forward and made some brilliant key passes as well. And I thought Kovacic played really well. I think he had a good chance in the first half. It just slightly went over the bar, I think, but Mason Mount, I mean, what a goal! Again, another person that we've said needs to sort of find. I mean, we spoke about the Luton game. We didn't even know he was playing, so he came into that game last night, and for me was superb. He took his goal really well, kissing the badge, letting the fans, the media, the world know that, whatever happens, Chelsea through and through, which is, what you kind of need in a time like this. But, I was impressed with Saul Niguez. I know, again, he doesn't necessarily like to play that role at left wing back, but I thought he done really well. It was a shame for Pulisic. I think he caught illness or he was ill, so he wasn't able to play. But, I think Saul Niguez, again, he's showing that he is adaptable. He can play in other roles as well, although he did it for Atletico. But, I mean, in terms of Chelsea, he's someone that is slightly impressing me a bit more now. But, yeah, the penalty was, I don't know why would you do that? I don't know if I suppose it is a bit of an inexperience, but at the same time as well, I think, you're a professional footballer. It's you do kind of see why players put their hands behind their back, because it probably is a bit tempting just to, use your arm slightly just to try and stop it. And
it maybe is a human reflex to do it, but like I said, you wouldn't see a Silva or Rudiger do that, I feel.
No, of course not. They're definitely a bit more experienced in that way, and I think it will come. I think that will come with time and the more regular playing that he does with Thiago Silva and hopefully Rudiger, next season. But if there is a next season for us, but no, I'm joking. Which I shouldn't joke, because I said it's not a joke. But yeah, I think he's definitely someone that has impressed me. Like you said, he comes into the game. Sometimes he doesn't always start the games the best, but I think the goal helped him. The early goal, which I thought was strange to give him that much sort of opportunity to score from a header from a set piece. But yeah, we march on. We've got a big game coming up against Newcastle. What's your thoughts on that? And in terms of team lineup, what would you go with?
I did feel we probably didn't play our strongest 11 against Norwich. You're looking, Timo Werner started. Marcus Alonso, who is probably our number one left wing back, didn't feature. Pulisic, like you mentioned, was probably ill, so didn't feature. I'm expecting a very tough game against against Newcastle. They've really picked up some form since their acquisitions in the January transfer market. Very smart acquisitions in the likes of Dan Burn, Chris Wood, players that don't need time to adapt to the Premier League. And I saw that their new signing from Lyon scored yesterday against Southampton, big away win against Southampton. So they're going to be full of confidence, have that momentum. I think the most important thing for Sunday, results aside, is just how Stamford Bridge reacts to everything that's happened recently, the atmosphere. They need to get behind the players, the coach, which I'm sure they will. It's everybody going to Stamford Bridge on Sunday will be Chelsea through and through, like you said. And I think the players as well, it's time for them now to prove that regardless of what happens, regardless of these uncertain times, I want to play for the badge. I want to play for the club, like what Mount demonstrated after scoring his goal with his celebration. It was kind of a passionate one that showed, I've been here since I'm 7, 8 years old. So I don't care what's happening backstage. I'm Chelsea through and through. But I'm expecting a very tough game Sunday. Really, really tough game. It's still probably the worst time to be playing a team like Newcastle. You kind of hope you'd be able to play them twice, even though it's not possible. But before January, when he still had Steve Bruce. So I'm expecting a very tough game. I don't even want to make a prediction. I just feel like it's going to be a tough one. But if I had to make a prediction, I'd probably stay optimistic. It was still a decent performance against Norwich, and it was a good second half against Burnley. And if Havertz just continues to play the way he's doing, he looks like he's got a goal in him at every game he plays. So I'll go 2-1 Chelsea.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really difficult. I agree with you. I think Newcastle have picked up some form, especially under Eddie Howe. They're 14th, so they're almost, I would say, they're 10 points from the drop. So I'd almost say, another two wins maybe will get them safety. If not now, I think they could probably say they're almost over that line of safety already. But I think it's going to be difficult. I think the fans will have to be the 12th man in the game on Sunday. I think, after the week that we've had, not having the full capacity, you got to remember as well, not everyone who attends games this season to get older, so there isn't going to be as many fans in the grounds unless these restrictions do get lifted in the next 24 hours or so. Oh, I think the Newcastle game's fine, actually, isn't it? The Newcastle game's fine.
I think so. I think if I understand properly, Newcastle is fine, Lille away is fine, and Brentford home is fine.
So it's anything after that. So yeah, ignore me. So yeah, I think obviously, in fact, there is just a Thomas Tuchel's actually just giving some sort of interview now on Sky. But yeah, it's going to be a difficult game. We need to be just as we were against Norwich, focused on the game. I thought the players looked like whatever was going off field wasn't actually impacting them on the field, and I think we just need to continue to do that. Obviously, Arsenal, I think, is still 2 games. Got 2 games in hand ahead of us as well. So, we do have to be worried about the pack behind us in terms of, Tottenham and Arsenal. But I would expect us to beat Newcastle. The sort of performances I'm watching of us, especially after the cup final, there's enough in there to tell me that we can clearly beat teams. We just have to be tuned in and switched on. And for me, that, the start is going to be important. I think the first 10, 15 minutes is going to be important for us as well. If we concede, I think the atmosphere will drop in the ground. I think there'll be, that sort of tension around the team will be felt not just in the stands but on the pitch as well. So I'm going to go 1-0 Chelsea. I don't think it's going to be a big scoring game. I think it will be difficult. Newcastle, like I said, playing really well under Eddie Howe. But I do think we've got enough to beat them, and I think we need to shut up critics and media attention by playing the football that we know we can.
Yeah, and we just, last thing I'll say on the game is we can't afford to play like we did in the first half of Burnley. and beginning of maybe that second half of the Norwich game, because Newcastle have better quality players and they will take their chances. So, like you said, if we can score early on, calm the nerves, and even maybe get a couple early on. I know you said it might only be 1-0, which I can actually see happening as well. But it's definitely going to be a tight game and very cagey, I feel.
Yeah, definitely. But it's sad times. It's sad times to be a Chelsea fan. It really is. I honestly didn't think this day would ever come. I knew we would sell the club, but the way that it's gone now, it just doesn't. Like you said at the start of this, it doesn't feel real, and it still doesn't. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see. 100%.
I'm not going to say the lyrics, but there's a Stormzy song called Vossi Bop. Listen to some of those lyrics, and there's some of them that really apply to how I feel right now.
F the government and F Boris.
There we go. You've said them for me. There we go.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, I agree. Everyone was, like I said at the start of this as well, everyone was saying that this government isn't capable of handling COVID. Are we really trusting them to sell a £3 billion football club as well? Is the answer is the question I'm gonna ask everyone. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Theo, let's end it there before we drown our sorrows even more. We need to be upbeat. We've got a game on Sunday.
Yeah, I feel like one of us is about to cry, so we need to be upbeat.
It probably will be me, to be honest. I did feel like that yesterday morning. I just switched my phone off for an hour and came back to like 50 messages and loads of WhatsApp chats. So I think we get a result on Sunday. We could be looking at this in a couple of weeks and almost like we do at the Super League now. We talk about it. At the time, it was serious business. It was, pressurizing as a football fan. We might be doing this in a couple of weeks. We never know, but it's a very dark time at the moment. Very, like you said, uncertainty. Which way is it going to go? We just don't know, and I think that's the problem.
But we're Chelsea. We're extremely resilient. But I know who the real Chelsea fans are, and I just know that they'll stick with the club through and through. And I think people like you and me, we supported Chelsea long before the Abramovich era, and we'll continue to do so, 100%.
League One, League Two, Conference, it really doesn't matter to me.
I'll be there. Yeah,
it doesn't matter, and I think this is kind of, in a way. I mean, obviously the whole thing isn't good, but it will weed out those sort of bandwagony sort of fans who are just there for the glory days. This will weed out a lot of them. This will show the real resilience of some people, whether they actually want to support the club or they want to just support something that is looking good from the outside. So we'll see that over the next couple of weeks. We're already seeing it. We're seeing people sort of, disattach themselves from the club already. So, you have to remember, you support the club, not the owner. You don't support a manager. You don't support a player. You support the club. And that's the bottom line. That's going to be the title of this episode. You support the club. Simple. You don't support the owner. We don't support, the next owner that comes in will back them just as much as we've done Roman. The next manager that comes in will back them just as much as we did Lampard and Jose and whoever else, Conte. When a player's not doing well, yes, when they score, we'll cheer, we'll back them. That's what you do. When they're playing bad, you tell them that they're playing bad. That's just what you do as a football fan. But the ultimate thing is you support the club through and through. That's it.
100%. Good way to end it, I feel.
I agree. Anyone who's listening on Apple Music or Spotify, you can watch this episode also on YouTube as well. And make sure you subscribe. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and vice versa. If you're watching on YouTube, you can also listen to the audio podcast on Spotify or Apple Music. But Theo, as always, thank you very much for joining me. Episode 56 of From the Shed End podcast. Thank you very much for watching or listening. We'll be back next week with another episode.